Land Rover's invited us to incredibly beautiful Norway to drive the new Land Rover Range Rover Velar. Yes, that's the full name. And this vehicle is going to slot in between the Evoque and the Range Rover Sport in the Range Rover lineup. And before we drive it, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the exterior elements of the design and why they work and what they're intended to do. Now let's go up to the front end and talk about some of the styling elements up here. This is a limited edition, first edition variant of the Velar, so it has these big 22-inch wheels, and some of the detailing up front, like the bronze work that's up here, are nice little details that reinforce the luxurious or premium styling elements that Range Rover is known for. A couple of the elements that are most interesting are what Range Rover's done to shrink elements of the design. These headlights, for example, they have these character lines that are these LED lights that kind of evoke the Range Rover Evoque, forgive the pun, but they've also shrunk these lights quite a bit. And the effect, what that does to the rest of the vehicle, is it gives us this elegance, I want to say, and it's a very attractive thing when taken as a vehicle altogether. Another design element that stands out once you start noticing it is this stripe down here at the bottom that runs along the entire length of the vehicle. It's a nice design touch. And then as we get towards the back, we have to point out these flush door handles. This is a Range Rover first. We've seen a lot of other automakers do something like this. This has aerodynamic benefits, but it also has a styling element that helps make the entire side of the vehicle look entirely flush. And as we get to the back, we look at the taillights, and these two are also the smallest in the Range Rover lineup, and that reinforces this idea of minimalism. Overall, it's a very, very attractive vehicle, and next up we're going to see how it drives. We're driving a first edition version of the Velar, and it's limited in very few numbers. It's a high content variant, priced close to $90,000, but the interior seems to represent that price very nicely. It's most similar to the Jaguar F-Pace, coming with the same engines that vehicle is available with. It also shares the suspension design and the platform underneath. But as you can tell, it looks extraordinarily different, and the way it drives feels quite a bit different as well. The version we're driving right now has air suspension that makes the ride smooth, soft, and controlled, where like the F-Pace, for example, doesn't have air suspension. It has adaptive dampers, but the difference in terms of ride quality is pretty pronounced. We have the driving mode set to auto, and that's letting us move down this path at a fairly leisurely pace and pretty comfortable in terms of ride as well. This Velar has the supercharged V6, which generates adequate power, more than you'll need. It's a little bit quieter, a little bit more muted than the F-Pace, and that sort of reinforces the refinement that this car delivers and seeks to deliver as well. You'll also be able to get the Velar with a gasoline drinking 2-liter turbo 4 and a diesel turbo 2-liter 4 as well. All of them use an 8-speed automatic transmission. This will be able to tow around 5,500 pounds with the V6, and it has legit off-road capability, as we found out by doing a little bit of light off-roading earlier today. There's a lot of computer controls with regard to that. It's a single-speed transfer case, an active electronically controlled rear differential that's optional, and you basically use the touchpad right here to set a preferred driving method, whether that's mud, rut, or snow, sand, or so on. And the systems take control of lockup between the center differential and the rear automatically. In fact, there's a low-speed cruise controls that you can activate. Set it at any speed. We're in a car set to kilometers per hour. Set it to any speed below 20 kilometers per hour, and you can take your foot off the gas pedal, and it does all the work for you when climbing through ruts and whatnot. It's a pretty sophisticated system, although we'll be curious to see once we can test it in off-road areas that we're used to, how it acts. Design is one of the big differentiators between this and other SUVs, especially the F-Pace. It looks striking, it looks different. It has the traditional Range Rover design cues, and inside, Land Rover's paid careful attention to ensuring there's a very tech-focused interior layout, a lot of capacitive switches, including those on the steering wheel as well. It looks very clean, especially when the vehicle is off, and it gives a sensation of technology and sophistication that suits the overall design of Land Rovers very well. A couple of things I like about this interior layout is the digital gauge cluster. It's a nice high resolution, quick reacting, easy to reference display that's multi-configurable. You can see your navigation screen in it. You can move stuff around and personalize it to your taste. And I like that. It has all the benefits of a digital display, none of the downsides that you typically associate. The bisected interface here is novel as well. It's interesting to use at first glance, but we'll have to play with it a bit more to see if it works just as well in our daily use. The top level screen looks very similar to the InControl Touch Pro system that Jaguar has in the F-Pace, and we generally like the functionality of that system. We're told that Android Auto and Apple CarPlay compatibility is coming, and we're looking forward to when that happens. The screen here down at the bottom is multi-configurable as well, and the display itself is a really neat idea. Again, it's something that's going to take a little bit to get used to in terms of operation, because it is sort of a fresh approach to controlling climate controls, your stereo, your seat heating and ventilation settings, and vehicle settings as well. One of the things I like is that underneath it, there's a bit open space for a small handbag or whatnot, or whatever devices or stuff you want to hide back there. Now, as for comparison, it gets kind of difficult because this vehicle splits in terms of exterior size right between a compact luxury SUV and a mid-size luxury SUV. At its base price, it's closer to the compact luxury SUVs like the Audi Q5, BMW X3, and Mercedes-Benz GLC, but with the V6 and options that come on that model, it gets closer to the mid-size vehicles. Now, at the lower end, that means it benefits from being a little bit bigger. It has a little bit more cargo capacity and interior space. And on the larger side, it's a little bit smaller than those vehicles, so the inverse applies. But from this first impression, it's pretty clear that Land Rover's made a very successful looking vehicle. There are a lot more videos where this one came from. Subscribe now to see all of Edmund's latest reviews.